Grambling State, Jackson State. Those two names mean something in the HBCU world. The pillar of HBCU football, the giant, the icon of HBCU football, if not HBCU sports in general, is a Grambling man, Coach Eddie Robinson. The current face of HBCU football and HBCU sports, period. Right now, if you talk HBCUs, the name that rings is Coach Prime Deion Sanders. So, two storied programs, two legendary men. And I've been thinking about this question for months now. And that is, what must Coach Prime do to surpass the legendary Eddie Robinson in stature? Now, some are going to say that I'm being blasphemous for even asking this. G-men, don't come at me like that. Okay, again, I'm not one of them ones that finna try to trash your school because we finna play y'all. I'm not one of them ones. Okay, if you just hold your fingers before you go to doing this and doing whatever the fuck you be doing. Hold on, we gonna talk. We gonna talk, okay? But before we talk, I need y'all to go ahead and do that. Just trust me. You can go ahead and do it, okay? I'm the realest. You gonna enjoy this, okay? We're gonna talk. We just gonna have a conversation. You feel me? And make sure you put your partners on it. All right, and tell them about your homeboy first, and tell them about the realest, most entertaining sports show in the game. Put it on some. All right. So let's talk. Been thinking a lot about Eddie Robinson, man. Growing up, Eddie Robinson was the name that I heard when it came to black college football. You know what I'm saying? Of course, Jack State got W.C. Gordon, and some of y'all Jack State supporters might be saying, "Hold on, now how he gonna go to Eddie Robinson? He ain't even passed W.C. Gordon yet." I feel you on that. Trust me, I feel you. Well, you can. That's fair. That's very fair. Okay. But even with W.C. Gordon, y'all know nationally, it's Eddie Robinson. Everybody been it's Eddie Robinson. It's Eddie. We know this. The man's resume speaks for itself, man. Okay. We talking about 57 seasons. We talking about for a record of 408, 165, and 15. 408 victories. He once held the record for most Division I wins. The first coach in history in D1 to go over 400 wins. 17 SWAC titles. That's crazy. 17 SWAC titles. Over 200 players to go to the league. You know what I'm saying? The man resume stupid. One of his boys, one of his former players, is the first black player, excuse me, to win the Super Bowl, and that's Doug Williams. Of course, I meant to say quarterback. And we know that Doug eventually became the head coach at Grambling himself. All right, so it's one of his that does that. One of his players, Paul Tank Younger, was the first HBCU player to sign in the NFL, and that was with the LA Rams. One of his players, Coach Robinson, one of his players was the first HBCU player to go number one in the draft, and that was Junior's Buck Buchanan. This man's resume is legendary. Like, His second season as the coach, they went undefeated and didn't allow a single point the whole year. That's crazy. Now, from what I read, that hasn't been done since. Okay, y'all let me know if it's another instance of that shit on any level of college ball. His resume is impeccable, and it starts off from such humble beginnings. When he started coaching, he had to also coach basketball. He had to teach PE. Shit, I know about that. Having to teach class and coach, I know about that shit. I had to teach history and coach. All right, but he had to cut the grass. He even had to write about the games for the local paper. He had to do everything. Basically, had no fucking budget. We talking about the HBCU coaches today getting it out the mud. That was getting it out the mud for real. Okay? So the man's resume is stellar. But see, what got my wheels turning and thinking about this was one, Coach Prime, like I said, is the face of HBCU football right now. HBCU sports period. He's the face. And motherfuckers keep talking about him leaving. They keep talking about him leaving. Every time we win a goddamn big game, especially after that FAMU game. Oh, it's time for him to move up. Florida State, when Florida State damn near tricked off the game. Oh, they should have got Prime on the phone immediately. And they naming up. Man, fuck that shit. If the brother stayed, this man stayed 57 seasons. If Prime stayed, you can become legendary. He already legendary as a player, but as a coach, like to be a legend in two instances, that's like Bill Russell, who won a championship, first black head coach in professional sports in North America. Bill Russell won a championship as a player coach. You feel me? Coach Prime stays and continues to elevate things and change the game. Can get into that. So I was thinking about that. But then also I was like, damn, Eddie Robinson resume. That's kind of tough. Like, how the fuck you gonna deal with that? Because he was able to do that over 57 seasons. Like, Prime ain't got 57 seasons worth of coaching in him. He got started late. You know what I'm saying? He went to the league. He was stellar in the league. Now, maybe if he had got straight into coaching after the league instead of going on TV and stuff like that, maybe he had more time to catch in some of the numbers and stuff. But that's tough. So I was like, man, no, ain't no way. But then I thought about shit, Nick Saban. Nick Saban then came for Bill Bryant's legacy. It used to be, me growing up, everybody for the majority culture would say Bill Bryant. It's Bill Bryant. Okay. Especially down here in this South. You see all them damn hats and shit. Bill Bryant. Got the statue on campus. Now that motherfucking Nick Saban. Everybody be hollering goat on him though. Today. He got a statue on campus too. So with that thing, I was like, okay, excuse me. It's not too far-fetched to think that Coach Prime could come up there and at least put himself in the discussion with this great man, Eddie Robinson. And I'm saying great man because from everything I watched, prepping for this segment, man, I ain't really hear a lot of shit about football other than the record and stuff. I ain't hear a lot of shit about X's and O's or how he was drawing up plays or and like that. I'm not saying he couldn't do that. I'm not saying at all. I'm saying in my prep for this, I wasn't hearing a lot of that from those who knew him and played for him. They kept talking about this man taught me life. This man motivated me. He made you a better man. I'm the man I am today because of this man. That's what they kept saying. So I gotta call him a great man. You feel me? So I was like, "Whew, that's gonna be tough, dog." But let me tell you though, this is why I think Prime, if he stays and continues to put in the work of uplifting the culture, why he can put himself in that discussion at least. Now he'll never surpass him in the minds of grambling people. Okay, cool. And some Jack State people might say he'll never surpass W.C. Gordon for them. That's cool. But he can put himself in the pantheon. But he has to stay first. And he has to continue to battle against covert racial discrimination. Covert racial discrimination. Now, see, Coach Rob, he had to deal with that shit with overt. Right there in your face. Okay? Right there in your face. HBCUs exist because of overt racial discrimination. White racists did not want our people at their schools. Didn't want it. You can't go there. So HBCUs were absolutely needed. And it cultivated great people. My mama wanted them more. You feel me? She studied at Tuskegee and Jack State University, graduated from Jack State. So he was facing his players, certain places they can't go. I was reading about I want to say that was Tank Younger. Like shit, you finna go play for the Rams, but it's still certain places you can't you can't ride this, you can't do this, all that shit. And then we talking about underfunded. If it's underfunded today, when much shit you hear about Tate Reeves talking, Tate Reeves ain't finna get on the news and just openly call black people niggas. That's what they were doing back then. That motherfucker was on some segregation, non-segregation tomorrow, segregation forever type shit. That ain't just George Wallace from Alabama. That was the thinking across the South. Okay? That shit real. He coaching in the midst of that, building men in the midst of that bullshit. Sending these men off to professions in the midst of that bullshit. Oh, I know it was tough to navigate that. Especially you dealing with football players, these big, strong motherfuckers. You teach them to be violent, hit, and they had to live in a world where you had to take shit off these white races or die because you tried to physically uphold yourself and stand as a man. You're risking your life. Because the local sheriff ain't on your side. Now you can say shit, they still ain't on our side. But you ain't even got no black folks on the force. You ain't got no black folks in government positions. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, we talking about where's the motherfucking money for the water tower for Jack State and what's up with approving the funds for a stadium for Jackson State on campus. Man, you ain't finna have them discussions with them boys back then. They like, fuck you. Who you gonna talk to? They was systematically, they're still systematically doing it, but I'm telling you, they out in the open with it back then. Okay? Well, what Prime is dealing with, and with all coaches at the HBCUs dealing with, is it's now covered up. It's covert. It's tricks. It's little shit like Brett Favre and Phil Bryan working together to take TANF money, welfare money, and send it down there to Southern Miss to get a damn volleyball thing built. When we got shit at Jack State that need money. Not the welfare money. Don't take that. That should have gone to folks in need. But shit, if you're doing this funny business, how about you use your power for righteousness and appropriate funds appropriately to help these schools? Valley shouldn't be in the situation it's in. None of these schools. These are the school institutions of higher learning are building the next generation of leaders. You feel me? But that's still the shit Prime dealing with. Prime knows that too. That's why he keep talking about leveling the playing field, leveling the playing field. So I believe for him to get in that discussion, he has to stay and he has to be successful in that endeavor to level the playing field. He does. Because Coach Rob's career is so fascinating in so many ways. But one way is that he coached during segregation and post-segregation. Post de jure segregation, at least. De facto segregation, we know that shit's still around. And there's a quote that I put in my notes. It's from the Encyclopedia Britannica, the online version. And they had this in Coach Robinson's write-up. See, they pointed out that during the 1960s, Coach Robinson sent more players to the NFL than any other institution other than Notre Dame. Had that bitch rolling. So that was right there in that time where, okay, the NFL finally going on and trying to fully integrate. You know, somebody really kind of got started very late 40s, on into the 50s. You know, you got Jim Brown and there and all that kind of stuff. But then in the 60s, they really starting to bring the guys on through. Okay. The schools still ain't integrated in the South for real yet. Okay. So while the NFL is integrating, the schools are not. So you still got the studs, the future Hall of Famers, them boys, them go-getters still coming out of HBCU. So shit, Coach Rob and them shining because he got them boys. He got them. You want them? I got them. Okay. But then comes the 70s. And this is the quote that hit me. I knew this already, but just to see it in print lets me further know everybody knows what has happened. It says the racial integration of college football in the South in the 1970s ended this brief period of football glory for Grambling and other black colleges. Now, I disagree with the language about ending football glory for them. Coach Rob's program continued to be stellar. Other programs continue to enjoy success. But what they're talking about, this sentence immediately followed what I just told y'all about, that this man was sending more folks to the league during the 60s than anybody. Name your powerhouse that you got in your mind. No, Grambling was sending them because, again, if you look in the NFL today, you can look at defenses be damn near all black. Look at the skill positions. You know what I'm saying? Look at the best quarterback in the league right now, in my opinion, Patrick Mahomes, black man. You know what I'm talking about? So if 70% of the league is black, and at that time, in the 60s at least, the NFL wanted more black people. They're trying to find more black people now. But in the South, Southern white schools still wasn't allowing black folks. Shit, Grambling, that's where they were. You know what I'm saying? But then in the 70s, when the Southern white schools figured out we ain't gonna be able to compete no more, that we don't stop the bullshit and go ahead and just recruit the best players, white, black, whatever. The shit we were fighting for, which was the choice to be able to go wherever the fuck we want to go, actually hurt our historic institutions from the standpoint of our best players got attracted to the money under the table, which been going on forever. That's one. They got attracted to the bigger stadiums, the bigger opportunity, the promises of being able to be highlighted more and quicker, easier pipeline in their mind. It's probably what they were being sold to the league. That shit fucked up a lot of shit. So he saw, Coach Robinson saw before that and still had to coach after that. He went from having, if they had a rating system back then, he went from having the 5 stars and 4 stars. Because Louisiana State didn't want them. They didn't want them. Alabama didn't want them. Georgia didn't want them. Clemson didn't want them. Florida, you name them, they didn't want them. So they were there. It went from that to now the fake love started. They realized we got to have them to compete with these other schools throughout the country who are getting them, and then he loses them. So now go from having 5-star, 4-star talent to now he probably having to coach 3-star, 2-star talent. Still winning swag titles and shit. You know what I'm talking about? Now you fast forward to Coach Prime. Now he dealing with what we're trying to create is a black renaissance. And it's so weird because we in the 2020s and we slick trying to get that rebirth of black consciousness and rebirth of just our culture and that self-love and shit, kind of like they did in the 1920s. And so Coach Prime has an opportunity to cement himself as a face of the 2020s Black Renaissance. Think about that. Think about how historic that shit would be. Y'all see how hopefully you got taught about the 1920s and the Harlem Renaissance and Langston Hughes and Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington and all these folks, you know what I'm talking about? Well, sports is culture. So when the history books are written and read, Coach Prime could be one of the faces of that shit, taught forever. But he gotta stay, and he gotta keep fighting this fight to level that playing field to try to reclaim some of those 4 and 5-star talents that ventured off during the 1970s, 80s, and beyond. To get that kind of shit going back like Coach Rob had it in the 1960s, where only Notre Dame was sending more players to the NFL. Got to get that shit going. I think it's doable. But because of people like Coach Robinson and all our forefathers that stood up for us, Coach Prime has it better. He has a better chance to do it because Coach Robinson was doing all that shit still being underfunded and all that shit. He was doing all that without being Pro Football Hall of Famer and being friends with Jerry Jones and Troy Aikman and all that kind of shit. Now, from my studies, I see some white folks did embrace him. He's just that good of a man. But I'm saying, y'all see how Coach Prime got all these rich white partners who will drop a bag down if you need him. He got rich black partners too. Okay. Like this is a different day. NFL player, yeah, Coach Rob was sending them boys to the league in six, but them boys in the six weren't making no money like that for real. Now them guys still had jobs in the offseason. This is a different day and time. We got motherfuckers going to get guaranteed bags now in the league. In the NFL, quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? So he has a shot from that standpoint. He'll never surpass Eddie Robinson and most folks' hearts. But in terms of changing the game, I think he has a chance to do it and put himself up there with this legend. Okay? And I would love to see it. So I just want to touch on that given the fact that this game is approaching. I enjoyed prepping for this, learning so much more about Coach Robinson. I tried to get his book. You know, I told you I'd be reading my books on my phone and shit. So they didn't have a digital version of his autobiography. Tried to get the autobiography out of Barnes and Noble in Ridgeland, Mississippi, but they didn't have it in there. But I'm gonna order it. I'm reading another book right now called "They Want to Kill Americans." I recommend that highly to y'all. I'll tell you about that later. But I'm gonna get my hands on that book and learn even more about this legendary man. But y'all let me know what y'all think. What must Coach Prime do to surpass Eddie Robinson, or at least put himself in the conversation with this legendary man? All right, put it on some.
Thank you so much for watching my daddy's YouTube channel. Make sure you like, share, and turn on your post notifications. Okay, how do I do it?